What's up, guys? I'm Alan Branch from Project 49. I'm here tonight with my man, Brandon Falkenberg. I said it correctly? Awesome.
How's it going?
Good, man. So Brandon is the owner of Clinch Fitness, where many of you guys have heard. If you're following our reels, you're following our page. These are the bands that we recommend. They're the ones we carry. We're going to learn some stuff about them tonight, tell you a few things that you do not know yet about exercise bands. Brandon, you want to tell everybody real quick before we get rolling? You want to give them a bit about you?
Absolutely. So, as Alan said, I'm the one of the co-founders of Clinch Fitness, and our entire mission is to develop innovative fitness equipment in the home fitness space. And basically, we started this business around 2017, and we launched to the world in 2018. And our whole product line is designed around resistance bands, and we've created some innovative accessories that we've designed, manufactured ourselves. That's kind of our bread and butter. We're really good at product development and things like that. And ultimately, our goal is to deliver the highest quality products with the most versatility and the best value for dollar. So we leave no expense spared when it comes to quality and durability. We do tons of testing in-house, and that is what we love to do.
So we're going to be talking about that a little bit more, guys. We're going to tell you some stuff about clinch bands. We're going to go over the sizes. We're going to talk about how much force they can produce, and then introduce you to a few other toys that you may not have known. We'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, guys. So we're here tonight talking with my man, Brandon. He's the owner, co-founder of Clinch Fitness. Many of you guys know we are big fans of exercise bands. You may have heard about our program, Band Camp. We have about 120-some thousand people now that have asked about Band Camp and want to learn more about resistance bands. So I thought, what better to do tonight to kick off than to bring in the man who can tell you about the bands. So Brandon, I think I'd like to start, man, if you don't mind. And by the way, guys, if you're here watching, here's the rule in the call. You comment, say hello, put where you're from, what state you're from. We're streaming right now to our private Facebook group, which is where you can ask questions. We are also streaming to our main Facebook page and to our YouTube channel. So if I don't see your comment right away and you ask a question, I will get it later. Please ask it. Sometimes it comes through on this software and I can see it, but ask any questions about bands or anything else that we cover tonight. So make sure you say hello and hit the like button, guys. So Brandon, let's start off talking about so when the reason why we are fans of resistance bands, a couple different reasons. One is versatility, flexibility. There's just so much, man. I can do so much with just a couple of different bands, but they're broken down into different individual sizes, and each size represents a different level of force. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. When it comes to bands, like you said, it's the band, and ultimately, all the bands that we sell, the most popular bands, we have two lengths. We have a 41-inch, and what that means is when you lay it flat or stretch it out like this, it's 41 inches lay flat length, and we have resistances from 5 pounds all the way up to like 400 some pounds per band, and across like 12 different bands. But ultimately, what creates resistance in the band is by stretching the band itself, and it's dependent on basically the cross-sectional area of the band. So that's the width of the band multiplied by the thickness of the band, and so the wider it gets and the thicker it gets, the more resistance it's going to put out. And ultimately, we've created the levels of bands to one, we don't want to have like 50 different bands so that you can get all these different resistance levels. So we've kind of broken it down to easy steps so that when you jump from one band to the next band, it kind of just, it makes sense, and it's not a huge jump, but it's enough of a jump that, you know, we can spread it out and get a lot of load out of these bands. And like I said, we have stuff from 5 pounds all the way up to 500 pounds or 400 some pounds in resistance, and you can stack bands together to kind of go in between those resistance levels. What else do you want to know about these, Alan?
Well, so what about this? When we talk to a lot of people that ask us about bands, right? And many times I'll say to people that are interested in working with us, I'll say, send me a picture. They'll say, well, I have bands. And I say, okay, send me a picture of what you've got. And what I end up getting pictures of are these thin little latex rehab bands, or something that is maybe from a Target or a store where it's a very, very inexpensive, very cheap, and very little resistance. Talk about the difference.
Absolutely. So ultimately, the first thing that you mentioned is the thickness of the band. So like the rehab bands, the flat like TheraBands that you get off the roll, or the other things like that you buy that are super thin, like the thin hip circles that go around your waist. Obviously, the thinner the band, the more fragile it is. At the end of the day, these things are just rubber bands. So the thinner the band, the faster that it's going to wear out. And then when it comes into these loop style resistance bands, obviously these are like the most durable form factor on the market. Like all the heavy duty power bands from all the big brands, they're running the same kind of geometry, that 41-inch length, and they're usually right around 3/16 of an inch thick, plus or minus a little bit, depending on the brand. And the reason for that is the thickness helps to build strength, also the width. So the more meat you have, or that cross-sectional area, the stronger the band is, the more resistant it is to snapping. And there's another component to that, which comes down to how the band itself is manufactured. So there's kind of two main camps when it comes to band manufacturing. And most of it, of course, revolves around cost to produce. So the cheapest band to manufacture is called a molded band, where they basically have molds where they'll fill the entire mold cavity up with liquid latex and mold this thing in one solid piece. And it's the cheapest to manufacture. You can run tons of cycles, and then you can also mix and match different materials and fillers to just drive that cost down as much as possible. And ultimately, what that results in is, of course, a cheap band to manufacture cost-wise, but also you're sacrificing a lot of durability, especially when it comes to like cuts or things like damage to the band. So like over time, when you're using these things, you're stepping on them, they're getting used in the gym or wherever, at your house, out in the garage or whatever. They're going to see some wear and tear. Like that's just natural to it. And you're going to get some cuts and nicks and stuff on the outside. And with a molded band, as soon as you get a little cut in that thing, because it's one solid piece, it can just propagate all the way through. And that's where you get that snap that happens. Like a little cut, all of a sudden, bam, becomes a big cut, and you won't even be able to catch it before it snaps. The other side of the coin is using layered manufacturing. So they basically create, there's a few different ways out there to create a layered band, but ultimately what it comes down to is we produce many different layers. It's usually in the case of these 3/16 bands, it's somewhere between like 12 to 25 layers across the entire thickness. And there's different ways to basically create those layers. The way that we use is a continuous layer stratification is what it's called. That's the hydraulic manufacturing term or whatever for it. But we basically take a single piece of latex and wind it around a mandrel and bond the layers together with a bonding agent. And basically that creates one continuous loop of a bunch of layers that are all bonded together. But the layers are mechanically and chemically separate from each other. There's like no interface, so that if you do get a nick or a cut, it's not going to propagate all the way through the layers. So they're a lot more resilient. And then also with those layers, it allows the band to last a lot longer. So like, think of, you have a ton of different layers, and over time, you're stretching and contracting. They're a lot more resistant to stretching out or plastic deformation, which is what happens when you stretch a band beyond. So like this here is elastic deformation. If I stretch it, it goes out and it comes back to where it started. If you stretch it too far, it's going to be longer than what it used to be, right? So you're plastically deforming that band. And eventually, if you stretch it too far beyond everything, it's just going to snap you in the face no matter what it is. But typically, with a layered band, you're going to be able to, it'll last a lot longer in terms of cycles, and it'll maintain its resistance over time a lot better than the molded bands out there. That's one of the big detractors of the molded band that we see. It's like, oh, I bought the bands off Amazon, I've been using it in the garage, and all of a sudden the thing is like it's like time and a half as long as it used to be. It was 40 inches, now it's 50, and it's got half the resistance. Like that's the kind of stuff that you see on the molded versus the layered bands. And then last, of course, is the material quality. So obviously you got the layers versus the molded, but then with everything, it comes down to material selection. And ultimately what we found is that the closest to 100% natural latex that you can get, those tend to be the longest lasting bands. But of course, the natural latex is the most expensive component in this. So many companies will like to throw in like fillers like talc or just cheap things that you can do. And obviously with layered bands, you can only add so many fillers because you still have to have some kind of layer to be able to wrap around. Molded bands, you can mix in latex, talc. There's just like tons of different fillers that you can use to create these bands, and ultimately just degrades the quality. So when it comes to bands, not everything is created equal, and we kind of take a step above the rest to really get the best layering process with the best quality materials. And then we even go a step further than that. So obviously with the layering, you're going to have an end, like a seam. But that layer, the seam is not like a seam that goes across the entire band. It's just on the very inside layer, you'll have where that last piece of material stops. And then they basically just bond it. And typically what you'll see like in commercial gyms and stuff like that, you might see a band that's like hanging up or something, and you can see these thin layers like peeling off of it. That's the last layer coming unglued from the layered band. So with our bands, we go a step further, and we actually put what's called a latex weld on there to protect the band. And it's like a little bump. And I want to find a good example of it for you.
And guys, if what you're hopefully picking up out of this, and make sure you stay with us till Brandon's done, because he's got a special discount code that's only good for today and tomorrow. So if you left the video early, you're not going to get it. So stay in. Go ahead, Brandon.
Absolutely. So this, if you can see it in the camera here, there's like a little ridge here. And this is how you can tell a really good layered band from everything else out there is this little ridge, and that's on every one of the bands that we make. That is the latex weld protecting that last layer. So this thing will never peel and start peeling off layers like you see some of the other big brands do. So that is the one thing that we do that pretty much nobody else does. And that's the very long-winded science explanation for why these bands work the way they do. So hopefully I didn't talk too much.
So guys, if it makes you feel better, I understood about 25% of that. What I did get out of it is that we have a better quality product. We have something that's going to last longer. And guys, I've owned the bands that he's talking about in a commercial facility. I've seen them literally just pop. I've never had a clench band pop, but in our facility, they would break on a regular basis. They would dry rot. There's lots of problems. So when you're going with a cheaper band, you just got to be careful. Now, Brandon, obviously from the beginning, I thought the clinch bands are extremely competitively priced as well. So price really isn't the thing. There's one question. I saw that one, Kay. And guys, look, we have people right now. I'm looking from Alabama, California, Louisiana, Pittsburgh, Illinois, of course here in North Carolina, Florida, Virginia. Glad to have all you guys. Make sure you take the time to ask any questions. Please comment down below and ask. I mean, that was sort of the educated version of what the bands are like. And now we're going to get into some of the training methods here shortly. But Brandon, would you like to answer that question? Kay wants to know, would this type of band affect her latex allergy?
So I guess the answer is it depends. It really depends on kind of how severe the latex allergy is. But yes, these bands are basically 98, 99% natural latex. What we've kind of seen is like if you're using the bands a lot and they rub on your skin and you have a latex allergy, you'll notice it. It depends on, how bad the latex allergy is, but ultimately what we've kind of done to try to isolate you from the band is create accessories that make it so that you don't have to come in contact with that band. So it's not rubbing on your skin and things like that.
So that moves us into this. And guys, again, feel free to ask any questions. Brandon has extended a special discount at the end of today. It's good at the end of the video. That's only good for today and tomorrow. Today is the 25th of September, 2023. So that code's going to be good. 25th, 26th. That's it. So Brandon, this looks like something that fell off of one of the UFOs that have been found in Arizona. What the heck is it? And how do you
Absolutely. So yeah, we actually pulled this out of the COVID bill that got released. We found the design for this and we stole it for ourselves with the UFO stuff that got released.
Oh, nice.
But actually, no, that's not even close to the truth. So this was our very first product. This is the clench band handle. So it is a solid, basically a plastic component made from, it's an automotive industrial grade plastic that's super strong. And we wanted to design a handle that was more versatile, more useful than anything else on the market, specifically for loop style resistance bands. And where this thing sets itself apart is the number one thing with bands is getting the right setup and making so that it feels good throughout that range of motion and setting the proper tension. And like everybody's different. So trying to get that right setup and then being able to do tons of different exercises, because bands, they're like the most versatile thing out there when it comes to exercise. But that versatility can be daunting and confusing for a lot of people or like not comfortable or whatever. So we wanted to try to create something that felt, similar to the machines and things that were out there that people are used to, so that you could just hook onto your band and you're doing, whatever it is. It's bicep curls, shoulder presses, tricep push downs. You can basically attach this band a number of different ways to the handle. The most common way to do it is like Alan was showing, where you drape the band kind of over these ears. And what that does is it keeps the band away from your skin, but it also takes up length. So the biggest thing with bands is getting that length as short as possible, so that when you're doing an exercise like the overhead press or a bicep curl or something like that, you want to have a good working length. So like when I'm when I release this band down to the floor, I don't want any tension in it. So like with the handle, you can literally wrap this band around the handle multiple times to take up slack, set up that exercise so that you get tension all the way through the rep. And you can hook it up around the outer ears. And then we made it symmetrical so that you can flip it around and get a very comfortable, so whether you're attaching to one side versus the other, or you can even attach like one end on this and one end on the other side, like something like that. If you're doing like rows or lat pulls, it's just super versatile. You can wrap it around the neck of the handle if you want to do like tricep extensions or something. So if you wrap it around this way, I can get it up over my head, do some tricep extensions, put both hands on it. It's just super versatile. And there's literally no other handles like this on the market.
So that's awesome. And I'm glad to have you explaining that. So guys, if you follow our coaching program, and again, if you're watching this, make sure you say hello, say where you're from. Hey, do me a favor. If you like exercise bands or you use them or you like learning about them, make a comment in the comment section. Let us know kind of what you think of bands. So here's our view, that the downside of bands, because you can generate far more force with a band than you possibly realize. Like this is a smaller, like a level 2 clinch band. I can easily shoulder press this because I've been using bands for a long time, but there's a lot of force in there. If I was to move up to another level, like a black or a purple, the amount of force is greater. The limiting factor is how can I hold it? Because that external force being placed on the wrist is way more than you think. So the handle that Brandon has created solves a definite problem for bands. As you get stronger, they're harder to hold. Okay, no problem. Now you have a handle so you can hold it. So we'll have comments from fitness people who will say, you know, you can't get as strong, you can't gain muscle using bands, which is absolutely so incorrect, because your muscles do not have their own brain. Like when you're doing a shoulder press, your muscle's not saying, oh, he's using bands today, we're not going to grow. It only recognizes the amount of stimulus that you're providing to the muscle. And we feel like the safest way to do that is with bands. So Brandon, I noticed that a lot of times you'll do stuff, and this is just for people to understand, you'll have them get bands in pairs.
Absolutely.
So they can double up some of the exercises. And if that's the case, guys, it's worth a thought. Sorry, Brandon, I'll say one more thing. It's worth a thought, especially on some of the smaller bands, to maybe order 2 of these so that you have one per handle, and then you can go one handle in each hand. You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So like we've built a bunch of packages on our website. Like we have a level 1 kit, level 2 kit, level or undefeated athlete kit, whatever, just kits all over the place. And they're just most of the only variable in between them is typically how many bands that we throw in the kit. But we always put pairs of bands in the kits. And ultimately, why do we do that? It's just like Alan said, it's more versatility, and it gives you the ability to do all of these different bilateral exercises, whether you're doing like chest flies or bicep curls or overhead presses. It works perfectly with our handles and the other accessories to set that stuff up. And you would not be able to do that with a single band. Like, yes, you can replicate some of the exercises with a single band, but from our experience, it's way more comfortable. It feels a lot more natural. And honestly, it tends to behave almost like a cable machine, something that you would be used to in the gym in terms of like how it's set up and how you go about setting up the exercises. So like absolutely, we love pairs of bands versus just a single band.
So a few other things, guys. This is an interesting accessory that we just got in ourselves. It's a door anchor, and it allows you to put this on the other side of the door. That very brilliant, Brandon, by the way. The cap locks in the band, and as long as your door frame can handle it, you now can anchor this and put your bands around the plastic, and that's going to protect the handles. You can also do that like I have a pull-up bar that I put my bands around. It's pretty smooth. On the other side of my garage, I have some shelves that are made of wood. I noticed a while back when I wrapped the band around the wood for like a high face pull, the band was starting to wear because it's rubbing against the wood of that frame. Well, now literally just run this through itself. The plastic protects your band. So ever how you wrap it, now you've got your band sitting on this soft plastic surface that's non-abrasive to increase the longevity of your bands. And honestly, heck of a lot safer. Cool product, Brandon. Anything you want to add about that?
Absolutely. Thanks, Alan. Ultimately, the you can get door anchor straps off of Amazon from, you know, all sorts of different brands. There was like basically one design out there that seems like everybody's selling some variant of. We wanted to go completely a different direction and give you the versatility to not just use it in a door, but do like Alan said, you can wrap it around a post, you can wrap it around a tree. People like to work out on like chain link fences. Well, you can wrap it around that, and then you're not wrapping your bands directly onto the chain link fence. And then the other thing is that big long tube that Alan showed on there, you can literally put like 5 or 6 bands on it versus almost all of the other anchor straps you can only put one band on. So then you're like fumbling around trying to switch bands in between exercises versus ours. You just put 5 bands on there and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets, whatever you got to do. You keep stepping up the resistance. It just keeps everything nice and streamlined.
I like it. That's one that we just saw it. My wife took it out and she's like, oh, what does this do? Of course, that's like Christmas to us when we open up a box of band stuff. So guys, I want to see right now with everybody that's watching, if you would, so that more people can see our video, please click the like button if you like the content. If you're learning something about bands, Brandon put together an awesome discount for you. If you want to see that at the end, make sure you stay with us. And I want to show you what I think is the coolest, other than the bands, the coolest product is this. So this is Brandon's foot plate for the bands. So Brandon, there it is. It's heavy duty. I don't have too big of feet, but you see how much space that I have on it. Tell me what I can do with this thing.
It's probably easier to tell you what you can't do with that thing, to be quite honest. There's just so much stuff. So the biggest thing was that what drove us to create that was, one, when you get heavier in resistance, it tends to torque your feet, especially if you're doing like deadlifts, squats, big things like that. You're going to put pressure on your feet and on your ankles, and the bands are going to start kind of pulling up on the outside of your feet. So we wanted to create some kind of a big, sturdy platform that the bands would go underneath, and you can literally just string it up, and then you can put as much resistance on there, and it's going to feel sturdy and balanced no matter what you're doing. And then as you can see, there's a bunch of different ways that you can run the bands too. So there's like 6, 7 different channels on the bottom. I got one over here too. So yeah, we got channels that go all the way across the bottom. You can run bands long ways. You can go across the short angles. So you can do squats. You can do from the top side. You can string basically through the handles like Alan has it now. You can wrap it around the handles to do, you know, lateral raises or bicep curls. You can wrap it around the center. We do like goblet squats. It's basically just it's a jack of all trades when it comes to increasing the versatility of your resistance band training. And then it's also made out of it's kind of a fancy high-end material. It's called UHMW, which stands for ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. And what that is, it's used in like industrial conveyor belts, and it's basically, it almost has like a lubricious property to it. So the bands will literally slide on the surfaces, on the important surfaces, so that it won't wear your bands out. So it'll help your bands to last longer, and it'll allow you to do way more exercises and way more resistance than you would be able to do with just standing on your bands.
You know, when I'm holding these products, I feel a little bit like Vanna White on Wheel of Fortune, just helping you demonstrate, which is a little bit weird, but no, great, man. I love the bands. I love the platform. Guys, Brandon had agreed to come on just to talk about it. And I think, sometimes it's important if you're gonna talk. This is gonna be something you're gonna invest your time and your money into to get yourself in better shape. You need to learn to understand the equipment that you use. Why do you go with a certain brand? Why is it better? What makes it the most effective? And that was the purpose of us talking today, was to go over that. So Brandon has extended for everybody that sees this video. It's good for today and tomorrow, 25th and 26th of September. It's our normal code. Brandon gives all of you guys is P4915 for 15% off. He has activated P4920 for a 20% off anything that you want. So if you need to add a band, add a plate, get some handles, do it now and get the extra discount. And we do appreciate you doing that, Brandon.
Absolutely. We're happy to help. And honestly, like, our goal here is to help people and enable people to work out no matter where they are. And obviously we always put people over profit. So ultimately, like, we want to get this stuff in your hands, and we want to treat you with respect and treat you like the customer that you are, like a real person, versus all of the other people, all the other brands out there and stuff like that. I get on the phone quite a bit during the week, and just to take some customer service calls and actually talk to customers. And like, it's amazing how when I answer the phone, a lot of people are like, whoa, you're like a real person. And then like they figure out that I'm whatever. They're like, oh man, you sound like you really know what you're talking about. Like, are you the owner of the company? I'm like, yes, I am, or whatever. And like the conversations that I have with people just calling in to ask questions about bands, like we love what we do, and we're here to just support the community. So like that's what we're all about. That's why I'm on the phone here with Alan today. Like, so anything you guys have for questions, like let's answer them. Like, obviously we're showing some products and stuff like that, but like that doesn't need to be what this whole call is about. Like, we're here to talk bands, talk workouts, whatever you want to do.
So, guys, the website is clinchbands.com, clinchbands.com. The code P49, like Project 49, and the number 20, P4920. So, Brent, I meant to tell you this. I had one of the people in our Facebook group message me the other day and said, I ordered my bands. I've already got them. Shipping was crazy fast. I thought you'd like to hear that. Yep, they loved it.
That's one thing that we preach, like, internally all the time. It's like, let's control the things that we can control. And one of the things that we can control is when that order comes in, we can turn it around and get it out the door, like, as quickly as possible. Like, that's our whole goal. And once again, it's customer service, right?
No, absolutely. I've got at least one person on this call that I know of, Richard, out in California. We tell the story that the first time he ever called me was off of a YouTube video. And he said, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that I was actually pumping gas, answered the phone. And I guess he was very happy that he got to talk to me, and he's been with us ever since. So, oh, there's a good comment from Sharon. Because of the use of the bands, my squats are so much better. I'm able to go lower than ever. Atta girl, Sharon. Good job.
Nice job.
All right, so the code for you guys is P4920. I see somebody put that in. That may be Olinda. I'm going to leave the clinch bands up. So let's do this. Let's shift gears. Brandon, tonight, Olinda and I, I'm throwing you in on this because you're here and she's in there fielding calls. So the topic tonight, one of the most common questions I get, now you're being brought on as guest trainer.
There we go.
One of the most common questions that or problems that we have, we'll say, if somebody's interested in our program, we'll say, okay, what's the goal? You want to lose weight, tone up, or maybe all three? Well, they'll say all three or tone up. Okay. So we typically deal with an audience of people over age 40. But this does not change. As you get older, it doesn't change. I'll be 60 coming up pretty soon, and I'm doing everything I did when I was 30. The difference is the strength training that you do, guys. First of all, I'm going to dismiss something really quick. There is no such thing as toning. I use that word all the time. It's a marketing term. There's no such thing as toning. You cannot just tone. You can build muscle. You can burn fat, but you can't tone. Okay. So when you guys say that, I know what you mean, but I want to be clear and let you understand. So Brandon, when people are lifting weights or bands, what gives the result is the stimulus or the amount of intent brought on by the right amount of intensity, regardless of the tool that you use. Give us your rundown on that.
Absolutely. I mean, whether you're training with bands, free weights, machines, whatever, all you're doing is playing a stimulus, or you're generating a force on a given muscle group. And whatever that force is, like say you're doing a bicep curl or something, right? And you're usually put something in your hand that's pushing down, creating force in a direction, and that basically biomechanically creates tension into your bicep, right? Whether it's a free weight or a band or a machine, the way that the force acts on the muscle might be slightly different, and throughout that range of motion, you may have a slightly different force based on angles and gravity and how the machine or the band behaves. But at the end of the day, it's just placing a load onto that muscle. Like whether you're lifting a heavy weight off the floor or stretching a band, the muscle sees the same stimulus, and it is the job of your programming and the exercises and the equipment that you select to basically optimize the loading and how you load everything in your muscles. I'm trying to be as simple as possible here.
No, man,
But
great.
yeah, at the end of the day, like there are inherently different physics. Like I always try to explain like free weights versus bands. And like one of the biggest questions that we always get is it revolves around joint impact. And like bands are always, they're typically advertised as a very joint friendly workout apparatus or piece of equipment. And that's why you see them used in like physical therapy and rehab and stuff like that, because you can start out with very light tension and the impact on the joints is significantly less. And the reason for that has to do with its physics, of course. But with free weights generate force based on gravity, and that the gravity, the amount of force is dependent on how large of a mass that you have here. So right, I have 25-pound dumbbell, and the only reason that this dumbbell is heavy is because gravity is pulling it straight down to the floor, right? And with that, the band, it can also produce 20 to 30 pounds of force, but it has nothing to do with gravity. Everything comes from the band itself. So me stretching this band is producing a force and a tension. And what's cool about the band is that it's not always constant. So like the further I stretch this band, the more resistance that it puts out. So that's the big difference between free weights and bands, is that the loading is inherently different. And with a band, there is no mass. So like this thing weighs almost nothing when it comes to gravity. Like it's a couple of ounces. And the joint impact, or what's hard on your joints, is the fact that you have to accelerate and decelerate this. So like when I'm doing a bicep curl, I have to accelerate it up, and then when I stop and change directions, I have to slow it down, and then I have to change directions and go in a different direction. And when people are like starting to do that jerky motion where they're changing directions, especially when you get heavy, all that acceleration multiplies with the mass, and that is what produces extremely large forces in the changeover. With a band, there is no acceleration, or there's no mass to multiply with that acceleration, so that you literally have no impact on your joints. And so like for athletic explosive exercises, you can do these reps like extremely fast, like super fast, and you don't have to worry about throwing your joints. Like if I did a super fast rep with that dumbbell, like I was just doing, you'd blow your shoulder out or something.
So yeah, so guys, if you're following our program, good job explaining, Brandon. Very nice. So if you follow our program, you'll understand like when we're we are doing athletic type things with the band, you'll see us moving faster. When we're doing strength training, and Brandon, this will be just so you'll be familiar with how our clients operate, because you'll be talking to a lot of them. We emphasize two things, and this is for everybody. If you're wanting to tone, that basically means you need to strength train. So the most common problem that we have is, well, I'll tell you this, the most common problem that we have as trainers is when we care more about your results than you do. So if you're here on the video and you've watched this long, sounds like you care. So that means you probably are listening. So you're going to get a lot out of this. You got to get out of the cardio all the time and focus on strength. Without your strength, you can't get up out of a chair. I wouldn't be able to get on the floor and play with my grandkids. I ran wind sprints at the park tonight before this call. I can play basketball with my 24-year-old son. Without the strength and the muscle mass, you can't. Here's an example, just a quick story. We were a couple years back, I had a guy, a friend, and he wouldn't strength train. He just wouldn't. He was mid-60s, which I'm only 5 years away from, okay? Mid-60s. He came out on a basketball court at my gym, and we were all just kind of playing around. And he ran down the court, right? Not used to doing that stuff. He ran down the court. He didn't have enough muscle to stop. So the momentum generated some force, and then he literally tumbled and fell and rolled into the floor because he did not have enough strength to stop himself. Guys, this is the most important thing, especially if you're over 40, that you need to hear. The bridge is out. You're losing lean muscle mass. You're losing it. It's going. It's called sarcopenia. That is the term for age-related muscle loss. You're losing it if you're not strength training and optimizing protein, not high protein, optimizing, getting enough strength training. If you're not doing that and you're not interested in doing that and you have no desire to stop this runaway train that you're on, you're wasting your time on the videos, because that's what it's all about. For us, it is the gaining and maintaining of lean muscle tissue, which is your organ of longevity. It's going to propel you through so many things as you get older. Without it, you're going downhill. So with all of that said, if you're going to do strength, here's how we recommend with a band. The speed at which you do a rep is called your tempo. Okay? We recommend people over 40, especially if you're just starting out. Sometimes we'll do super slow, but no faster than 2 seconds up, no faster than 2 seconds down. This is to start out strength training. Now, you'll see people when it starts to get hard, they'll bump the weight really fast, or if it's real heavy at the front, they'll pop out of it. That is called the turnaround. The position where we're going to change directions is very important, because what we're doing is we're keeping a constant tension on a muscle. This is regardless. We are fans of the band, obviously. But if it's a machine or a dumbbell, when you're going 2 seconds up and you're controlling the turnaround position for 2 seconds down, you're not showing off how fast you can go. The goal is one thing. Brandon mentioned it earlier. We talk about it all the time. The stimulus. When the muscle begins to fail, I'm going to do some acting now, Brandon. When the muscle begins to fail, it's going to look like this. And then I'm going to come back down really slow. And man, I'm acting. I'm gassing out. And then when I give out, I just stop. So what happens, guys, is you fatigue the muscle slowly and controlled until it's done. When we can no longer maintain perfect form, it's over. When you've done it slow and controlled and focused, it's kind of hard to get hurt, because guess what? You can't produce enough force to injure yourself. You're too tired because you went slow and you introduced a good slow stimulus. So if you want to build strength especially starting out over 40, or man, my elbows or shoulders bother me. Let's slow the momentum down. 2-second reps, good controlled turnaround, regardless of the type of resistance you're using. Any feedback on that, Brandon?
Absolutely. And it's also independent of age. So like with the tempo and everything, it always comes down to time under tension. And like that's what's going to generate the most gains, like the largest strength increases, as well as the largest muscle mass increases, is how much time under tension you have. And you hit the nail on the head by explaining the quality of the rep over the quantity of the rep. Basically, you're literally trying to keep the strictest form and slowing that tempo all the way down, not banging through the changeovers and using momentum to try to throw that weight up just so that you can say, hey, I did one more rep with a heavy weight. Like, weight doesn't matter. Reps don't necessarily matter. Obviously, you're trying to beat whatever you did in your previous session, but you need to do it with control and with tempo. And like you said, Alan, like, you will not get injured when you're controlling that rep, because when you're controlling it and that tempo is slowed way down, the amount of weight and load, whether it's weight or whether it's band, that you're going to be able to move is going to be significantly less. But at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is drive that force into the muscle group, stimulate the muscle group, fatigue the muscle group, and make it so that it builds itself back up. Like, it has nothing to do with weight, mass, whatever. Like, it always comes down to directing that force into the proper areas.
And guys, if you want to understand on a very, very simple form, if you're new to this, we go over the big three: squat, push, pull. Olinda demonstrates a band squat, a band row, and a band press. If you get good at a basic squat, a basic pulling movement, and a basic pressing movement, and you put the right amount of intensity and stimulus, you're going to get stronger with 3 exercises. Then you could we go in our coaching program, we start with the big 3, then we go 5, 7, 9, and the maximum exercises that we really use are about 12. There's other variations of those, but we prove that we can produce really, really good results without confusing you. It's more about what Brandon said: the right amount of intensity, the right amount of stimulus, the right amount of load. Load, stimulus. Some of you guys may be like, oh, you lost me. Just think like this: how tired did you get? Real tired? You probably did it right. Real tired and maintained form? You did it exactly right. Couldn't quite finish the set you were on? Great job. You're supposed to not be able to really finish everything. If you can do all of your sets over and over, chances are resistance is probably too light. I had one question, and guys, if you're watching this now or later and you're not yet in the Project 49 group and you want to learn how we put this together and we use Brandon's tools in our program, just comment coach and I'll reach out and explain how we do that. Another thing, today, this is interesting, Brandon. I had so many messages today just trying to respond to people who ask questions. Facebook put me in Facebook jail for the 2nd time. So I'm now back in Facebook jail. I cannot respond to people because I guess they think I was spamming. I definitely was not. I was just trying to respond to you guys. So if you join this text list, this is our text list, guys. If you text Project 49 to that number, if you'll do that, I'll leave it up on the screen. Then you can talk to me directly by text in our texting system if I can't message you here. So if you comment coach, I'll see you. I'll try to have Olinda reach out because I'm in Facebook jail. Or you can go ahead and text that number and I'll be able to reach out. Let's deal with this question. This is a great one. How do you get to the highest weight out of the band? Example, if a band is between 5 to 15 pounds, how do I get the 15 pounds out of the band? Atta girl, Sharon. Good question.
Great question. That very good question. So all the different band manufacturers love to publish their own version of what the resistance range of a band is. So like what I talked about before, obviously every band, like it's not a fixed resistance, right? It's a range. You have a low resistance, and then you have a high resistance. And what we publish on our website for all the bands, we have two values. The low value in that in the number set is when you're stretching the band. We call this the full length stretch method. So you're basically, the band is straight and you're pulling on it, whether you got one end anchored or whatever, you're pulling on it. And the number that we publish is when you stretch this band to 2 times its length in the full length method. So the band is 41 inches. To get to the resistance level on the low number, you have to stretch this to 82 inches, and that will be the number. And now the high level in the force, the two numbers that are there, the highest number, that is what happens when you double the band over. So you basically, you can take this band and you fold it in half. And this is like if you're doing a deadlift or a chest press. Like if I have a chest press where I'm wrapping it around my back and now I'm pushing on both ends, right? So that's the high number in the range. Obviously, you're not going to be able to stretch it as far because now you have half as much length. But to achieve the high number, you fold it in half and stretch this to twice its length. So now the band is about 20 inches in length. You stretch it to 40 inches, and that's how you get to the high number in the range. So you got the full length method, twice its length. That's the bottom. Fold it in half. Now you have the doubled over method, stretch that to twice its length, and you got the number on the top end of the spectrum.
Wow. Cool. I didn't know all that.
Awesome. Yeah, so like that's probably one of the biggest questions we get. We just got done. We put some sweet like graphs together that literally like show you if I stretch the band 5 inches, this is how much resistance you're gonna get. We're gonna publish those on our website pretty soon. But honestly, it's like, how do we keep it simple? Because like at the end of the day, the number really doesn't matter. It's the fact that it's all relative to what you can produce as whatever exercise you're doing, and you're trying to get it so that you can fatigue out and get good results out of your sets. And then next week when you come back to do that exercise again, you're trying to beat what you did last week. So you're really just looking at, can I get more reps, or should I bump the band up a little bit from where I did last time? So the numbers don't matter as much, but you still need some frame of reference so you know, like, okay, this is what this one is, and that, and then we color code the bands, of course, so that you can remember the orange band is 5 to 15 pounds, the red band is 15 to 35. That's how we've structured it to try to keep it simple and still informative.
So guys, hopefully you understand what that means. And for you guys that are really interested in that, and Sharon said, thank you so much. She's been recording. Can you say it?
Yeah, yep, I can see the comments. Yep.
Oh, you can see them. Awesome. I didn't know that. Yeah. So thank you, Sharon. And I'm glad. And thanks for asking that question. So guys, again, if you have any questions on bands, go ahead and ask them now. Kay, I see your question. So are there squats for bad knees? Now, so we don't know exactly what you're dealing with. Okay. But chances are, if you can walk around, you can probably at least do a top range isometric type hold. Now, a lot of people will do this. We'll have clients, if you're in our coaching program, we go over exactly how to do all this, but we'll have somebody grab anchor like a door frame and lean slightly back into their squat, put a little more weight on their heels, lean, got to be secured. Don't try this without some coaching, but lean back and put your weight on your heels and gently sit down in the squat. There's also, if you elevate your heels ever so slightly, some people are a little more, have a little more range of where they can go. But to start, for most people, we will just do an isometric wall sit, which is basically leaning up against a wall, walking your feet out, sliding down, even if it's 3 inches, not very far, and holding that position until you start to develop some strength. Again, we don't know if you're bone on bone. Have you had some sort of surgery? We don't know, but typically there are things you can do for your legs for sure. Can't make a blanket statement on that, of course, because I haven't seen what's wrong with your knees. If you're clear from your doctor, we can generally work with you. You tell us his limitation, we'll build it. So again, if you're interested in something like that, any of you guys of knowing what the coaching program is like, just comment coach and we'll reach out. Brandon, you look like you had something you wanted to add to that.
No, I think what you said was good for sure. And yeah, but that's usually we approach this in the same way. I said, yeah, you really understand where that person is at, meet them where they're at, and then figure out how to progress from there. And whatever, if it's getting the range of motion back or building strength or whatever. But that's just how it goes.
And guys, let's say that you're a senior or you are completely deconditioned, right? And you can't do this, like you can't get up and down out of a chair, or you've got bad knees and the squat hurts you. Well, again, the reason why we have bands, the flexibility and the versatility of what you can do, I can put a band around one leg, grasp it, work on a leg extension, have zero impact on my knees, and work on lightly strengthening that quad. And then when it gets too easy, just grab it a little lower and work on strengthening. And this can be like phase one, of building that, where you're not going to hurt your knees. And look, this isn't that difficult for me. Put it in the extended position and hold it for about 90 seconds. That's going to get really difficult really fast. Now, when we extend, when we flex or engage a muscle and we don't shorten or lengthen it, we hold it. That's what we call an isometric. And we can do that with a myriad of different exercises. I like them. I still do them, and I don't have any aches and pains. But for people that are starting out and you're kind of deconditioned, an isometric hold is a great, simple way to get started. Like a lot of it, and Brandon, I can tell by the way you're talking that you would definitely agree. A lot of this is, guys, I told you the bridge is out. You're losing your muscle. Everybody's doing it if you're over age 40. Sedentary people are losing it even faster. There's only one way to fix it. You got to strength train. It can be a little overwhelming, but the big thing is just start. Just start. Do something. And you'd be amazed at how fast you can progress, gain strength. Brandon, I don't know if you saw this, but my mother-in-law, my wife posted a video of my mother-in-law walking. Did you see that?
I did not.
Okay. So guys, if you haven't seen this, it's on our Facebook page. Several months ago, my wife's mom literally was here. And she was walking like this with a walker. She got COVID. When she got COVID, bed rest. You lose some ridiculous amount of muscle on bed rest, like it goes fast. She couldn't barely walk. So Olinda and I talked about this, and this is for everybody who thinks my back hurts. I'm old. I have arthritis. I'm a senior. I'm a senior. So there's lots of excuses you can come up with. She's 86. Olinda and I talked about it. We came up with, okay, we're going to put her on the big three, Brandon. So she couldn't even use a band. So at that time, we took her, there's a little gym at her apartments. We put her on a leg press, a pull down, and a chest press. She started with like hardly any weight on I don't think she did any weight on the pull and the push, and had like 20 pounds. Fast forward to now. Olinda shot a video of her getting up out of a chair in slow motion, walking down the hall like this with her arms swinging, standing upright. She can leg press like, I don't remember how much weight it is. It's a lot more than what it was. And last week, she got in her car, drove to her house, got out of the car, walked in, went upstairs, and did a band workout with Olinda.
That's awesome. Like that's storybook, right? That's but that's the power of what we do here. It's just little changes every day. Try to beat 1% improvement every single day. It might be daunting at first, like you said, you can't move, you can't do something, or it hurts or whatever. Like just do something. Start with something, and then just keep progressing. Beat that something, and every day take control of the day and win that day. And the progress stacks up. It won't seem so at first, in the first couple 3 days of the week, whatever. But you just have to stay consistent. Check the box every day and keep progressing. And amazing things. Like at the end of the day, we are just machines, and the muscles and everything here, they respond to the stimulus, like you were talking about. So ultimately, it comes down to you need to keep giving them the stimulus, or if there is no stimulus, the muscle is gone. You don't use it, you lose it. It's that simple. Muscle movement, whatever.
It would be very advantageous for people who are 40, 50, 60 to learn from the 70, 80, right? So you've got a ton of people in their mid 60s, 70s, 80s, can't get down and up off the floor, can't walk straight, can't squat, can't do work for themselves. I mean, there's a lot of issues. I'm not picking on guys. We're here to help you, right? You guys that are trying to fix that, good for you. Good for you. But you guys that are in that 40, 50, 60 range, the people that are in their mid 60s and 70s would give anything to go back to being 50 and have the chance to prevent what they're going through now. I guarantee you. The one thing they would do is go back and say, oh my gosh, listen to those guys and start strength training now so I don't have to go through this as I'm older. So think that through. There's always a way to get started. We're recommending the bands. Brandon, this was awesome. We ended up staying on for an hour. I told my wife it would be 30 minutes. That never worked out. But guys, do me a favor. Say thanks to Brandon for showing up. Real quick, if you came in late, this is Brandon's website. It's clinchbands.com. Brandon's extended a discount code, clinchbands.com. It's P4920, P4920. And if you use that, you're getting 20% off anything you want today and tomorrow. Recommendation would be a set of the bands, preferably in twos, at least some handles. If you've got it in your budget, I would strongly consider the plate. It's a nice thing to add on. So Terry Kibler, you're very welcome. And Tina and Pam and Richard, my man. Awesome. Great, guys. Well, look, we appreciate you guys coming on. We wanted to talk a little more. Olinda and I were going to discuss this toning thing a little more. It was great to have Brandon in. Brandon, you're not as good looking as Olinda, but you gave great information. You gave great information. It was awesome. So,
and guys, I'm happy to be like, thank you. And honestly, thanks. I'm seeing all the thank yous and everything come up in the comments and trying to read them. But like, thank you guys for being on here, and thanks for listening for over an hour, like Alan said. But yeah, at the end of the day, like any questions or anything like that, that's what we're here for. And we want to help you get better so that when you're 60, 70, 80, 90, you're moving. Like I get on the phone, like I said, and the funny thing is, sorry, I don't want to ramble too much, but I got a good story. Like, the funny thing is the people that call in a lot are usually the older generation, like the 70, 80 plus people. And they always want to tell me like their story. And we get guys, so we've literally created a bucket of like a segment of our customers. We call them the super seniors. And I get calls probably a few times a week from these people. And they're in their 70s or 80s. And they're doing like extreme things like paddling canoes 90 miles down a river on a weekend. That this guy was like 80. Another guy's like 85, and he's telling me about how he can do 200 push-ups. There was another guy that was in his early 80s, and he's a nationally ranked competitive cyclist. So it's like going back to what you were saying, Alan. It's you make the choice. Do you want to be able to move, or do you just like hanging out and chilling out on the couch and not doing a whole lot? Like that's what it is. But honestly, so sorry, that's all I got for the rambling, but it's true. It really is.
Well, guys, hopefully this helped. Brandon, again, thanks, guys. Hopefully you can see, and you guys, we promote a lot of Brandon's products. Hopefully now that you've met him, you can see why. Not only is it a great product, there's a lot of versatility, some new things coming that Brandon can't tell you about yet, but we'll know soon, that you're going to freaking love, coming very soon. But now, hopefully that you met him and seen his personality, you know why we like to endorse those bands and his company. So again, clinchbands.com is the website, and P4920, if you're seeing this on the 25th and 26th of September 2023, make sure you take advantage of that. Our normal code is P4915. So Brandon, that's all for tonight, my man. Maybe we'll have you on another time. We'll talk more bands.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thank you everybody for being here.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Again, I'm Alan Branch, Project 49. What we are is my wife, Olinda, and I, we help people over 40 boost their metabolism, gain back lean muscle, burn body fat, learn how to move. Why do we do it? So you can get up out of a chair, you can get on the floor and play with your grandkids, and do pretty much anything you want to do. And what does that look like? It looks like a program where we design the exercises for you. We lay it out. We help with meal plans, and it's all based on you being able to start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, and then we're going to build it from there. We can turn it into something awesome in a very short period of time. So guys, thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.